Welcome to another video. If you're coming from the part one where I actually built this pergola, this is part two where I'm actually going to show you the tips and tricks that I'm doing to put the top, and we have a aqua or turquoise one, but you can get any color you want obviously for your choice of color. Tips and tricks and how to save money on putting this up, and I'm going to share the contact that I had where we found the manufacturer of the tops. So if you're buying on Amazon or eBay and you're seeing the prices are crazy, like $200, $300, $400, you're going to find out how you can save probably $100 or more by buying from the manufacturer direct, which I will share the contact information during this video. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoy. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like content where you can learn how to make money on the side by reselling things from home on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. That's mainly what I do on this channel, besides doing things like this where I show people how to save time, money, doing do-yourself around the house. So thanks a lot for watching, and here we go. Hey guys, welcome back. If you're seeing this video, it's because you saw the part one. And it took me about a solid day. The specs say it takes 2 people, 7 hours a day for 2 days, but I'm pretty handy, so I made it happen. And the step-by-step procedures that I went through and the tips and tricks and everything else, that was in the previous video of this. So I will link that below. The purpose of this video is I'm gonna be putting like a canvas canopy hang over the side tops that you see on all the pictures that you can buy. And I'm also going to provide information on saving some money on that. Because if you go on certain sales platforms, I typically search Amazon, eBay, etc., you'll see that the top that I had that I'm going to be using goes between $200 and $300, and I found the actual manufacturer that it sells them directly, so you actually save the cost or the percentage that they have to pay to eBay or Amazon. You save that. So we actually only paid like $160, so we ended up saving like $80 on the canvas top alone. And it is waterproof, it has all the UV protections, and it comes with the grommets and everything else for the tie downs. So I'll be providing that information, and then I'm going to show you how I install this and give you some tips and tricks along the way. It is absolutely a beautiful day here in Houston. I couldn't ask for a better day. Like 75, 76 degrees. I mean, no rain. It's a little cool breeze. Tell you what, whew, blessed to have these type of days in your life, that's for sure. So let's see what I can find at Home Depot. I'll show you why I'm buying it for the top and why I'm getting certain items. Not cheaping out and getting the bottom of the barrel, because you want it to last and not have any problems in the future. And that's about it so far. Let me cut to the shopping spree. I know it's hard to tell, but this is actually like a dark brown that'll match the color of the cedar stain on the current pergola. And what I'm doing is it'll be a quick paint job on the sides that aren't exposed to the actual canvas top, because I don't want the paint rubbing against the canvas, but the parts that you'll see from underneath when you're sitting and enjoying the pergola, I don't want that to be the same, just natural wood. I want to match the color of the pergola itself. So all those areas I'll paint brown, and I'll leave the areas that actually make contact with the canvas just the regular wood, so it doesn't, like, whenever there's friction or rubbing or like the wind or anything, the paint won't friction off and make a stain onto the actual canvas. And then I got this too. After I paint it the brown, I will seal it with this just to protect the wood and the coloring, so it'll stay for a while. So not only did I get the exterior screws to protect from the rust onto the canvas, but when you're getting the washers, because I have to screw down the grommet areas on the top, you'll see, but if you noticed, I got galvanized. So don't get the zinc, the cheap ones, because all zinc's gonna do is eventually it's gonna rust quick, and then you're gonna have rust stains all over your nice tarp, and you'll be upset. Once again, just pay up a little bit so you don't have to deal with as much rust. You can get stainless also, but I chose to get galvanized. So for the corners of the top on the canvas, they have grommets, and what I'm using is these ladder hangers. They're already kind of protected with the plastic coating, and see how it has about 10 inches as far as play. So I'll screw this into the cedar post, and then this reach out will grab into the grommets on the corners. So I'll get 4 of these. You'll see how it comes together. When y'all are shopping for the screws, don't cheapen out and get like the cheap drywall screws, because those are meant for indoor without exposure to the weather. Spend like $1 extra and get the exterior screws that have like the gray coating. That's what I got here. And what that'll do is it'll prevent it from rusting, and then the canvas top that you're putting, if it happens to get in contact with the screws, it won't show any rust ideally. It'll prevent that. So that's another tidbit that you should know about. Do not cheapen out and cause problems down the road for yourself. All right, so I'm here at the Home Depot pressure treated aisle, because you want to spend up just a little bit so your wood will last longer and not deteriorate. And I wanted to point this out because when you're selecting your wood, you want it to be nice and straight. You want to check it because there is going to be examples of, I pulled these out for an example. You can see how that one's like bowing. So you don't want to have to mess with that. And then you also want to check for like knots. See, that's going to be a problem. It could crack, it could just, catch this corner on the top with the canvas and rip it. And then here's another example. You want to check all sides, because that one, see all that? That's why you got to check your wood. So I'll pick the best 4 that I find on the stack, and I'll keep going. All right, so here is basically the sprawl out, or the list of items that I'm going to be using to do the install. First of all, it already came mailed. I folded it out to make sure there was no rips or tears or anything crazy. But that is a 8-foot by 20-foot, kind of hard to tell in the light, but it's a turquoise or aqua, whichever you prefer to call it. And the company that we got it from, they have various color choices. So that's something also to keep in mind. So if you don't want that, if you want a certain neon green or orange or you name it, tan, all the colors of the rainbow they can make. So that'll be something that I'll provide the information on in case you're shopping. Obviously, electric screwdriver, I got an extra battery. Exterior screws, don't cheapen out and get the ones that'll rust out real quick. I got the washers, which are galvanized. You can also use stainless washers. Don't use the zinc ones that are, they're cheaper, but zinc will just rust really quick compared to the others. Hammer, I'm not sure if I'll need that one too much. This is just a set. I'll probably need the drill bits to put in these guys. Tape measure, just to measure out everything on the braces that I'm gonna be securing, a little to mark the wood with. Sharpie. Now this is, it's hard to tell in the light, but it's like a brown. And the reason why I got brown, there you go, is it matches closely to the pre-stain of the pergola. And you'll see in the, if you cut and go to the link that I provided in the bottom, you'll see where I got this. This is a fabricated cedar solid wood from Sam's Club, and it cost about $1,000 for everything. And the cost of wood right now, if you go shopping, that is a really good deal from Sam's Club. So happy with that. And I showed all the tips and tricks of installing that one. And it is a 10-foot by 14-foot footprint on the actual deck here. And what I'm doing is I'm putting this canvas top as 8 foot by 20 foot. So 14 feet will cover the top portion, and that leaves 6 feet to hang off the sides how I deem fit. Now everybody else is going to be situational depending on what your deck is and where your positioning is, but for us, we have this kind of wedged in the corner where we want to be able to hang, artistic signs or whatever, and actually be able to see them onto that fencing. So we're going to be hanging maybe 2 feet off this side only, and then the rest, which is 4 feet balanced, will be hanging off this side. So don't knock me for my math skills, but it's going to be a little bit awkward. It's not going to be evenly hanging on both sides, simply because we want people to be able to see the artwork or whatever signs on that fence. And then I've got all these are pressure treated. These are just like ribs, and I'll explain that during the install. And then this is just like a timber, which is a little bit higher. This will be installed directly down the center line on top here. So I'll measure wherever the center is. So it's probably gonna be halfway between one of these ribs, and then go down. And it's an 8-foot long cinder, same with those ribs, because this is the trick, is you don't wanna be stuck in a situation where it's raining or it has rained and you're gonna get puddling, because if it's perfectly flat up top, you're gonna get water settling in probably the cavities between those ribs, and you're gonna see little pouches hanging down, which will probably not be appeasing to the eye, and then you'll be stuck having to keep a broom or a stick handy trying to push it up each time, which is just aggravating. So the purpose of that down the middle, which is a little bit higher, is it's gonna cause a slight grade for kind of like the slope of a roof, just a very slight grade to force the water to drip down the sides and drain off without puddling. So they do that with concrete work, etc. too, where there's a slight grade so you don't have to have water, that molds your concrete or sits there in puddles. So same concept. So that's what I'll be doing, is installing that centerpiece and then draping it off the sides. And then there's grommets that are built into that cover that I'll be screwing into the actual pergola itself. That's what I'm gonna be doing. So I also wanted to explain what the purpose of these were. And I got 4 of them, and I'll show you why. Try to picture if you have like a t-shirt or a sweater that you hang in your closet, and you put it on a hanger and it's been hanging there for a while. What happens to that hanger on the clothes? It ends up putting an indent in your shoulders, and you're stuck with that little indent. Well, the same concept is true for these points. If you see these, if I were to not put this long piece across all of them, then what would happen is the wind or rain or whatever would be slapping against the top, and eventually you'd have punch marks, or you'd have indents every 8 inches where those ribs are. And then eventually, Murphy's Law, the wind's gonna slap it enough where it's gonna cause a hole or a puncture. So you wanna avoid that by putting a straight line across, so when it's flapping in the wind or whatever, it's not gonna flap against a single point. It's gonna be uniform across, so it will go dip down and it won't have any point where it could puncture through the canvas. So I'll be doing that across these on both sides. And then same concept here is, see, I have these guys that are gonna be a point if it drips down. So same thing here is I'll make a nice and uniform line across there and across over there. So when it drapes over, it's not gonna have the opportunity of causing any holes because of these. So that's why there's one of those on each side to help prevent that from happening. Well, I already mentioned the paint, but what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna paint the 3 sides. I'm not gonna paint all 4 sides, and let me tell you why. Because the main reason for me matching the color is because I don't wanna see a brown underneath of the wood that doesn't match the pergola. And the sides where the canvas actually touches the wood, it doesn't make any sense for you to paint that side because no one's ever gonna see it anyways. And you also don't want to, with the friction or shaking of the canvas with the wind, you don't want any like paint rubbing off on the canvas as well. So I'm gonna paint the sides that will not be physically touching the canvas. That way, when you're underneath the pergola enjoying it, you can see just the solid wood that matches the cedar stain that was there. I wanted to mention before you actually did the painting, make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. If you're in the garage and you have like a water heater there with an open flame, if you start spray painting inside a garage and those fumes catch with that flame, you're gonna be hating life. So make sure you're in a well-vented area, use something. I had some spare pieces of board to make sure you don't get any overspray wherever you're at. And let me start painting. Another benefit of being outside in the well-ventilated area is that the air will dry the paint faster instead of being enclosed where you're not getting the circulation. So it takes about 15 minutes of dry time, especially if you hit it pretty heavy on a certain area, but it's almost dry. And then I'll rotate them, hit it with the clear coat, and I'll be on to the next step. Make sure if your hands get paint on them that you wash your hands after the paint step, because you're going to be handling the canvas top and you don't want to get any fingerprints such as brown paint on a blue. Alright, so I got that first timber up. I have not screwed it in yet, but you can see it matches the colors. And what I'll do is I'll center it down this center line and I'm going to screw vertically up an exterior screw on every timber, because I don't want there to be any chance that eventually just a couple screws will whittle off and break. So I'm gonna not cheapen out. I'm gonna do one on each rib, and then you're gonna want to center this because I got an 8 foot and my top is 8 foot. So you're gonna want to center this to where your liking is for this. Wherever you think that your canopy needs to hang over and be centered on the top. So it's kind of up to your taste and your situation in your yard or wherever you're installing this. So I'm on the ladder and I'm kind of giving you a bird's eye view of what's going on up top here. So there's the ribs, there's the center elevator that's going to basically make the grade so it'll drain off the sides. Now you kind of have to measure out because 8 foot, but I don't want it to look weird from underneath. So I'm making it flush with this rib and then all the way back. So they'll be protected if people are sitting down there. It'll be protected as far. And then I wanted to leave a little bit here showing, because for like the ambiance, I want this corner, all that showing. So it'll be hanging off this first area and all this will be exposed, because I just think it makes it look more like a pergola to have that cool woodworking show. So I'm gonna measure out the center points of these ribs and then secure this now that I know where I'm putting it, all the way down with the screws, and then I'll touch the sides up where those points are on both. All right, so what I'm also finding out is as long as your board is straight, and you can always put it on the ground level and put it on the, a flat surface that you trust. Make sure there's no bows in it. But as long as it's a straight board, then you can go ahead and secure that first one and then do the last one. And then all the others should already be lined up, so you don't have to worry about doing any measurement. You're just gonna screw them right in and secure them. All right, I got the middle rib secured. You can see every screw's in there, but it matches the color. So when you're in here and the tarp's on, you don't see a different color. And the top is still the bare brown. I never painted the top where it's actually making contact with the canvas top. All right, so I already got that center part down the middle. Now I'm matching it, because remember, you got an 8 foot wide top that you're trying to make sure it lines up. So this is flush just like the center part rib is flush, and then you're going to secure these to these ribs. And the trick I'm finding is go ahead, pre-drill a hole for the first one, and then go to the very last one, pre-drill a hole and screw those two in on the ends. And then as you're going down, you're gonna kinda, in case there's a slight bow, you're gonna just make sure it's nice and flush and even with this. And then since it's not at the end, you don't have to worry about it cracking the wood. So go ahead and just center it on the screw all the way down. And then you're gonna do the same thing on these cross beams here down, because it's gonna hang over this edge now without getting poked by these ribs, and it's gonna hang off the other edge without getting poked by this thing. And then we'll worry about securing the top afterwards. I almost forgot to mention, the reason why you're seeing the nude wood here is because this will not be seen at all, because the cover, the top, will be draped down. All the inside here on the back side is where you'll see it while you're sitting enjoying the pergola. So that is all painted. So this wood right here is going to be physically touching the actual canvas, and I don't want the paint to rub off on the blue. So that's why it's still natural wood. Okay, so I got this one side complete, all screwed down, nice and flush, so it evens out with the actual top all the way down. And you'll see the bare wood is where the actual canvas touches on both. So it'll drape over this and then drape over this without any potential location where there could be something that pokes through or eventually wears through the canvas top. And then it's gonna drape down, and then we'll secure it in a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the other side, a mirror image of what I did here over there. I'm pretty sure I already mentioned this, but before you start this project, you should have made sure that the pergola is exactly where you want it, because you don't want to have to be moving this thing or whatever and having to worry about if it has clearance such as this, where I have to make sure that I have enough for it to hang down, etc., and get up there to do it. So, and then also, depending on what pergola you have, you might not have this situation where you got to fix the edges, because it might be nice and square right here where the drop off doesn't have anything that can poke through on the canvas top. If that's your situation, then great. The only thing you really have to worry about is mounting that center rib so it'll drain off the sides without you having to be a slave to the umbrella or broom or whatever on the puddling whenever it rains. I was in a situation where I had to climb on a fence in that back corner to secure those boards, but I highly recommend that you have someone watching you, or if you're not in the proper health to be climbing up a ladder or doing something awkward, make sure that there's someone watching you in case something happens. You can yell for help, etc. Or possibly if you're a little bit older and you have someone else that's younger, that's more agile to climb up and down the ladders to do this, maybe recruit somebody, give them a free case of beer, pizza, whatever. I'm sure they'll help you out. All right, so we're making progress. Now I'm gonna unravel, straighten out the canvas top that we had ordered, and I'm also going to give you information on where you can find this at a decent price so you can save, like we saved $80. So depending on your size and your square footage that you need for your project, I'm sure you'll save probably at least 50 bucks versus buying one on Amazon or eBay or wherever you shop at, because they also offer the same thing where they can do the free returns if you're not happy or the size is wrong. And customer service for the company is a company out of California, and I'll share all the information and I'll drop it in whatever's convenient here. But I'm also going to let them know that I made this video just in case they see an influx of calls, which I hope they do. They were really good. They deserve to have a little bit of business because of not only this video, but if they're doing a service where people are saving money versus buying on some of these bigger platforms, then I'm happy to help them. So let's get busy, and I'm going to unload this and get it all put up on top. Alright, so for those that are contemplating getting one, I'm going to show you how it's made. So it's 8 foot by 20 foot. That's the size that we decided on. You can obviously tell them whatever measurements you want. They will custom make any size you want. So if you need 18 foot or 22 foot or whatever, it's just a matter of letting them know. The fabric is really heavy, so it's not gonna flimsy, it's not gonna tear that easy. And the stitching is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's heavy duty stitching. It's not like they cheapened out. And they have grommets. It looks every 2 feet they have a grommet along the edges. And then you could tell they really did a good job securing the corners, because I guess that's the most common place where it gives or rips. And grommets all the way around. And then they do something specialized here where you can see on the seams to make it nice and waterproof. So they're using probably these strips, and then they go ahead and attach them with whatever seams. But that is what I'm dealing with, and I'm gonna put it over the pergola now. Let's see what we're doing. All right, so I'll edit a lot of that so you only see the pertinent parts, but I got everything pretty much situation where it's gonna be kinda, and then you'll see I could drape this down more, but I'm not, because I want to be able to show things on the fence. But you could see how it's draping over without hitting any of those corners, which is great. And then here's kind of the inside, and then there's the overhang that we had planned on, because we want to avoid the sun. We have some family members that have had a history of basal cell cancer, and they want to stay away from the sun as possible. So a little bit more shade than maybe some people would decide on, but we're happy with it. We can always, if we decide to, we can always just roll it up or something to that effect. There's options, but it's better to have a little bit more than a little bit less and then be wanting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna straighten it out exactly where I want, and then I'm gonna line up one of the grommets right there. So whichever grommet's closest will be the winner, and I will screw it down into that board to secure it, and then over there obviously on that end, and then we'll straighten everything out, tighten it down on the grommets, and then worry about this bottom part so it doesn't flap in the wind. That's what these are for. I'm gonna be using these, which, in case you're curious, I already did an insert as far as my Home Depot trip, but these are called ladder, like racks, ladder screws. They're pretty cheap. They're only $3, I think, $3.50. But the plan is, see how the hook in there? And then it'll be like that, and it'll keep it nice and taut. And that's on all 4 posts. All right, let me get So the grommets have a pretty size hole, so you can't just use a regular screw. That's where these washers come into play, because you'll put a washer through the screw and then screw it down like that, and then obviously use anodized or stainless, that way you don't get rust over the canvas top. That would look ugly eventually, right? So that's the lineup. Everywhere I'm putting these through a grommet, that's what I'm going to be using. Wherever you have a choice on the end or the edge of the wood, try to pre-drill a hole if possible, because you don't want that wood to split, and it always happens towards the edge of whatever. So I'm gonna be spending a little bit extra time, but you know what? When I'm hanging out, drinking beer, I don't want the stress of anybody looking up saying, hey, he cut corners. I could see the wood where it split there. He didn't do a quality job. So if anything, let's do quality, spend the extra minute to pre-drill a hole, and you'll thank yourself in the end. I think it's gonna help y'all to see the bird's eye view of the grommet with the washer and everything. So much. All right, so here you go. That's what it's gonna look like. It's nice and taut, nice and flush, and it's gonna line up evenly with the other one over there. And I pre-drilled the hole, and then obviously it's gonna match up and be nice and taut over there as well. And then drape off the sides. We're moving pretty good here, guys. Well, we're almost to the tail end. Now I'm gonna show you how to secure the corners so they stay pretty taut and don't flap in the wind. You're gonna basically pull this nice and taut, okay? And you're gonna find out where you want this hook so it'll hold on to that and it won't do anything. So that's what I'm doing. I marked a little cheat hole there, and I'm gonna drill a hole using a drill bit that is, I don't know if you could see, but you're gonna use it just like 3/4 of the size of the actual screw. That way you're actually gripping. If you use the same size, then it's never gonna catch. So you got the general idea. Just a little bit smaller than where the teeth is at. All right, so here you go. Screwed it in there, and then this, and then you'll just have to just pull it tight and grip it, and you'll be good to go. And there it is. That ain't going anywhere, guys. Obviously, if you didn't want to use this, you could use something else. You could put just like a little eye hook here, and you can use a bungee cord if you had to. You have other options, so you can get creative on that. This is just the one that I chose. You can kind of see how it rounds there.